When the Charlotte Hornets drafted LaMelo Ball, it seemed inevitable that his prime years would be wasted. With Michael Jordan as owner, the Hornets had an awful track record. They consistently missed in the draft, they handed out bad contracts, and their ceiling was nothing more than a first-round exit. The good news is they finally do have new ownership. Unfortunately, they've gotten off to another bad start this year. They're currently 3-6, and their schedule is about to get very difficult. I don't expect Charlotte to make the playoffs, so with the new ownership, this will be a year of evaluation for the team. There are plenty of bright spots on the roster, but there are several things that need to be looked at. They have expensive contracts that could be moved, their head coach has a team option for next season, and they'll need to address the off-court drama associated with certain players. In today's video, I'm going to touch on the specific changes that would turn this franchise around. Before we get into it, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers by the end of the year, and your support goes a long way. With all that being said, let's get into the video. When Kemba Walker joined the Celtics in 2019, Charlotte signed Terry Rozier to replace him. At the time, Rozier's contract felt like an overpay, but I'd say he lived up to it. With Charlotte, Rozier has averaged nearly 20 points to go along with 4 assists per game. I do like Rozier, just not as a starter on this team. He could be a really valuable sixth man, especially since Charlotte's bench isn't the deepest. More importantly, a move to the bench would allow Brandon Miller to be a full-time starter. Rozier is 29 years old, so he can still contribute for a number of years. Gordon Hayward was another big signing for the Hornets. Hayward will be 34 by the end of the season, and he's on the last year of his deal. The thought of trading him for assets sounds nice, but I imagine his trade value isn't too high. He's been injury prone for 4 to 5 years now, and he's not the easiest player to trade for because he's making $31 million this season. It might be an unpopular opinion, but the Hornets should keep both Rozier and Hayward. There is value in keeping these two because you know what to expect from them. If you're trying to build a winning team around LaMelo, he's going to need players he can trust. As of now, the Hornets have a lot of raw players coming off their bench. These guys have potential, but they aren't showing results right now. When LaMelo subs out, he shouldn't feel like the game is always going to get out of hand. Charlotte isn't a major free agent destination, so it would be smart to hold on to the good role players they already have. Rozier and Hayward could be a steadying presence off the bench, and I like that role for them going forward. Something I'm not as optimistic about is their coaching situation. Last season, Charlotte signed Kenny Atkinson, but he ultimately backed out of the agreement. This put the Hornets in a tough spot, and they ended up hiring Steve Clifford, a coach they had previously fired 4 years earlier. Clifford is known as a defensive specialist, yet the Hornets have been awful on defense the past 2 seasons. Last year they ranked 20th in defensive rating, and this season they're ranked 29th. Now you can't completely fault Clifford because this team isn't filled with good defensive players. However, their defensive strategy isn't helping. The Hornets play an aggressive style of defense where they help on drives and pack the paint. The issue is, Charlotte is giving their opponents a lot of good looks from 3. The Hornets allow 14 made threes per game, but they only make 8 per game themselves. They can't match the shooting of other teams, and it's why they already have 4 double-digit losses this season. The Hornets have been pretty good offensively, but the biggest reason for that is LaMelo Ball being healthy. The current ownership group didn't hire Steve Clifford, and he wasn't even the first choice under the previous ownership. Maybe things will look better once they're back at full health, but if I had to make a prediction, I'd say Charlotte will have a new head coach next season. On top of their on-court issues, the Hornets have dealt with plenty of off-court drama too. Before the season, Charlotte waived Kai Jones after videos surfaced of him speaking incoherently and drawing on the walls of his house. The year prior, James Bouknight was arrested on a DUI charge. The team declined his option for next season, so it seems like his time with the team will be ending as well. However, the biggest controversy is the one revolved around Miles Bridges. We all know what Miles Bridges did, and it was awful. There's no defense for that, and when you do what he did, you have to really prove to others that you've learned your lesson. Ahead of this season, Charlotte signed Bridges to a 1-year contract. Afterwards, Bridges said this: "Yes, I understand that some people don't think I deserve a second chance. That's why I am trying to use this year to prove to everybody the person that I am. who is Miles Bridges? It's not what people think he is. Keep in mind, Miles Bridges said this in July. If we fast forward a few months later, Bridges was accused of violating a criminal protective order. Essentially, Miles had to stay away from his ex-girlfriend for the next 10 years. Any visitation or exchange of their children was to be done peacefully and through a neutral third party. However, on October 6th, Bridges allegedly threw pool balls at his ex-girlfriend's car while his children were in that same car. He was also accused of telling his ex that he wouldn't give her child support money if she told the police what happened. For all of this, Bridges was charged with violating a domestic violence protection order, misdemeanor child abuse, and injury to personal properties. Again, this comes just 3 months after stating that he wanted to change his image. There's a chance Miles Bridges can change one day. Maybe at some point he'll show that he's truly learned his lesson, but that time does not appear to be now. Clearly, Miles has issues that need resolving, and if I'm Charlotte, I'm not rewarding him with a long-term contract. He hasn't shown true remorse for his actions, nor has he shown any growth. Steve Clifford said that Bridges will have a large role when he returns on Friday, and I'm sure he'll play well. I just can't trust him at the end of the day. He's not someone I'd want representing my organization, and if I were the Hornets, I wouldn't bring him back past this season. I know he and LaMelo had a good relationship, but you have to ask, is Miles Bridges someone you want hanging around your franchise player? To me, the answer is no. LaMelo is still very young, but it's getting to the point where the front office needs to show him something. He did sign a 5-year extension recently, but that was only because Charlotte could offer more money than anyone else. If the Hornets are still struggling 3 to 4 years from now, LaMelo will request a trade. However, if the front office makes the right moves, they can prevent this from happening. The Hornets have an underrated young core with LaMelo, Brandon Miller, PJ Washington, and Mark Williams, plus they'll likely add another lottery pick in 2024. They also have good veterans in Rozier, Hayward, and Nick Richards that can provide bench depth. If Charlotte can solidify their head coaching position on top of that, they'll be in a great spot. Charlotte has the potential to not only be a great team, but a more professional one as well. They've been criticized for drafting players with poor character, and they can eradicate that notion by letting go of a few players. The Hornets haven't made it out of the first round since 2002, but I expect that to change in the near future. Anyways, that's going to be all for today's video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. With all that being said, I'm out, and I'll see you in the next video.